Well, hello there. My name's Forrest Groves. I'm a lawyer by trade, but I also enjoy mathematics and science and different areas of technology. And today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind for a long time, and I've wanted to write a mathematical paper on it for quite some time, but I've kind of neglected on writing my paper, so I just decided to make this video. Sorry, one sec, there's a motorcycle going by. So I've had this idea for a long time, and I'm just going to share it with you very quickly. And the idea is basically what I call the mathematical proof for God. And I came to this organically because I was, I'm very sort of scientifically minded and mathematically want to make sure things have validity before sort of believing in them. And I was hesitant with, I always thought that there was probably something more going on in our reality than, just pure randomness. But I wasn't sure whether I believed in God or not, or sort of a literal conception of the idea. And it wasn't until I started to see some of the patterns in our universe and in all life that I really came to the conclusion that there really could be no other solution than there to be a designer or a creator or a God. And I really like to think of it as a designer, because it's clear when you start looking at things carefully that there were design choices made, and it sort of has a personality to it, I tend to think. So I'm going to do very kind of on a broad level this probability analysis of how I believe there is a God. And maybe it will help some scientific folks, open up a pathway and consider things in the future maybe a little bit differently. So the basic idea that we're kind of told in modern science is that the Big Bang occurred and life sort of emerged on a spontaneous basis with no real intention behind it. It was sort of just something that happened randomly. And fortunately, random is sort of a mathematical standard or test on a probability basis. And so this actually helps serve our analysis quite well. The idea we're kind of told is life emerged. It started as a single cell organism, worked its way up and evolved over time, and sort of these defense mechanisms and survival mechanisms all sort of balanced out to give rise to the life forms. Hey bud, how's it going? It's you. I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to anyone else. Sorry. It gave rise to all these life forms, and it just sort of happened that way. There was no real intention behind it. It just kind of occurred. That's sort of the idea that we are given, right? And I wanted to believe that, but then I started looking at all the different areas of science and all these different analyses and some of the mathematical patterns you start to emerge. It became a lot harder for me to believe, and many people have struggled. I've struggled to kind of explain this to people, and so I came up with a really simple mathematical test to kind of show what I'm speaking of. So the idea goes something like this. If everything is random, then it has a fluid possibility of how it can, present itself, right? And so you would think that you would have a lot of variation in the way that life forms emerge. And you could say, well, part of the issue is that certain things are more likely to survive. But I'm speaking simply not on I'm simply speaking on a proportional basis mathematically. So a ratio it's a rectangular shape if you want to break it down on a two-dimensional level, and it's sort of a spiral pattern on the three-dimensional, and referred to as the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden ratio, or the variable phi, which is 1 to 1.618, and that's basically the ratio. And so you see this ratio emerging in almost all life forms. All life forms tend to trend towards it. And it's very, very interesting how this sort of emerges. And I'll sort of tell you why, because If you look on a cellular level, you see this pattern. If you look on an even smaller, more quantum level, you see this pattern. If you look on a body basis of the human body, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, it's the rectangle in the circle of 1.618. The human body extended in its ideal form is exactly the golden ratio. If you look at the arm, it's in its ideal proportion is that ratio. The ear, the eyes, the nose, really all the body parts. So the human body itself, all the body parts on a cellular level, plant species, you just look up a video and you'll see all kinds of analyses of these. And once you see it, you can't really unsee it because it's so present in everyday life. But it also exists on the macro scale. It's on what the earth, the structure of the earth, the weather system, water, trees, the atmosphere, all the way to the solar system and the universe itself. And the spirals that you see in the Milky Way galaxy are exactly in Fibonacci sequence. So this seems a little bit too much of a coincidence to be purely random to me. Now there are arguments that I think you could make to say, that it did happen that way, but it gets really hard to start saying that it's purely random. You have to make some sort of intelligent design, or it ends up being very difficult to say it's purely random, because I'm going to give you just a simple test. So if we say that on an atomic level, the atoms themselves exhibit these qualities all the way up to a universal level, what are the odds of that? And you could also add all the other variables, but I'm going to start just on the lower end of the likelihood from a probability point of view that this occurs. And it is, so if you say all the atoms in the universe exhibit this quality, well, how many atoms are there in the universe? What are the odds of them all being that way? And the fact that they all sum to that size and that proportion is very interesting. And so I did a quick Google search to see how many atoms there are in the universe, and of course we have no idea. But I got an answer of around 10 to the power of 80, which is a lot. So the odds that all of those are exhibit the same quality and sum to that is much more than this number I'm presenting, because truly for it all to happen at the same time, it would have to multiply all the numbers by themselves, or multiply all the numbers to each other, and then all the other qualities within that you would also have to multiply, like the arm, the body, the leg, the trees, everything. The fact that it all exhibits this mathematical quality, it's 1 in, at the very minimum, 1 in 1 nonillion, 411 octillion, 999 sexillion, 999 septillion, 999 octillion, 999 septillion, 999 sexillion, and 457. So that's on the extreme lower end. And I have to say that to believe that all that is purely random and there was no sense of design or inspiration behind it takes a lot of faith. Okay, thanks a lot, and God be with you.